Gandhi has been my childhood rock star, and I have been doing a lot of studies on trying to understand this great man and also a very ordinary man, a great human being. But the space that he has covered cannot be covered in one play. So therefore, we have limited our discussion to two great minds of the last century, not for India, but they have been great minds for the entire world. And their concerns are Indian, but at the same time, these concerns belong to the entire human race. They are talking of defining freedom in a very, very liberal way. And putting up this play these times is more significant because we are living, at least I believe, I don't know about others, we are living in terrible times. I'm a Kashmiri, and I see what's happening around India with the Kashmiri little boys who are 15, 20, 19, being thrown out of the homes, thrown out of their place where they have come to study. I understand, those people, their parents are selling the little land to get them educated because 30 years they have not seen nothing except violence. And today I was watching some footage of what is happening now. I wish Gandhians of this country, even they are very old, wherever they rise today. I think only hope to us today is to refocus and relook and foreground values of Gandhi. And thank you for coming here, and good luck to all of you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Preeti.
I'm Moru.
I'm Abhijit.
Today's performance puts together letters exchanged by Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindra Tagore, along with some essays which they wrote debating major national issues. They were both great icons of the last century, and we cannot dare match them or imitate them. We only bring to you the text of the exchange that took place between these two great minds. These letters, preserved at the archives at Vishwabharati, are of great historical interest. Of more than historical interest is the debate between Gandhi and Tagore over certain questions and issues which continue to be relevant to this day and age. And today, we present them to you in its original language and form. This intellectual exchange began in 1914-15, when Gandhi, along with a few students of the Phoenix School in South Africa, visited Tagore's Shantiniketan. Gandhi recalls later,
"It was here that members of my South African family found warm hospitality in 1914 pending my arrival to England, and I too found shelter here for nearly a month.
At that time, Tagore's school at Shantiniketan was not yet 15 years old. Tagore was 53 years of age and had just received the Nobel Prize a year earlier. Gandhi was younger by 8 years and yet to attain national stature in India. However, his great work in South Africa was widely known. There were striking contrasts between these two great personalities, and yet they found some common chord, and there began a friendship which lasted till Tagore's death in 1941. As early as 1915, we find Tagore referring to Gandhi as Mahatma, and Gandhi readily adopted the form of addressing Tagore as Gurudev.
But theirs was not a relationship based only on mutual admiration. They had differences in basic philosophical issues, which led to disputations in matters political, social, and economic. They argued ceaselessly, but neither was successful in getting the other to share his point of view. But both agreed cordially to respect the other's idea to differ. They were not strangers. In the 1901 session of the Calcutta Congress, M.K. Gandhi moved a resolution that,
as a petitioner on behalf of the 100,000 British Indians living in South Africa.
that's where he also met Rabindranath's elder brother, Jyotirindranath. And shortly thereafter, an essay by M.K. Gandhi on the Indian settlers in South Africa appeared in Bharati, a magazine that the Tagores were associated with.
There is no evidence of any personal encounter at this time between Gandhi and Tagore. However, there is an affinity of spirit evident in what Tagore wrote of the Indian freedom struggle as early as 1908.
God save us from the disastrous notion that dharma is not for the powerless. Let us not depart from the path of truth, that which is right. It is regrettable that the terror and upheavals of Europe are the only models before us. But the Christian saints, who by the strength of their faith withstood the oppression of the Roman emperor, triumphed in their death over the emperor. Dharma can help us surpass oppression.
In this statement and in many others, Tagore's philosophical approach appears to approximate that of Gandhi's. The first letter from Tagore bears no date.
Dear Mr. Gandhi, that you could think of my school as a likely place where your Phoenix boys could take shelter when they're in India has given me real pleasure. And that pleasure has been greatly enhanced when I saw those dear boys in that place. We all feel that their influence will be of great value to our boys, and I hope that they in their turn will gain something which will make their stay in Shantiniketan fruitful. I write this letter to thank you for allowing your boys to become our boys as well, and thus form a living link in the sadhana of both our lives. Very sincerely yours, Rabindranath Tagore.
In January 1915, after Gandhi's arrival from England and shortly before his visit to Shantiniketan. However, they did not both meet during Gandhi's first visit to Shantiniketan. They both met during Gandhi's second visit to Shantiniketan in March 1915, and after that they stayed in touch regularly. In 1918, Gandhi wrote to Tagore on the question of national language.
21st January 1918, Motihari. Dear Gurudev, for my forthcoming address before the Hindi Sammelan at Indore, I am trying to collect the opinions of leaders of thought on the following questions. Is not Hindi, as Bhasha or Urdu, the only possible national language for interprovincial intercourse and for all other national proceedings? Should not Hindi be the language principally used at the forthcoming Congress? Is it not desirable and possible to give the highest teachings in our schools and colleges through the vernaculars? And should not Hindi be made a compulsory second language in all our post-primary schools? I feel that if we are to touch the masses, if national servants are to come into contact with the masses all over India, the questions set forth above have to be immediately resolved and ought to be treated as of the utmost urgency. Will you kindly favor me with your reply at your earliest convenience? I am yours sincerely, M.K. Gandhi.
Tagore replied within 3 days, albeit with some reservations.
24th January 1918, Shantiniketan. Dear Mr. Gandhi, I can only answer in the affirmative the question you have sent to me from Motihari. Of course, Hindi is the only possible national language for inter-provincial intercourse in India. But about its introduction at the Congress, I think we cannot enforce it for a long time to come. In the first place, it is truly a foreign language for the Madras people. And in the second, most of our politicians will find it extremely difficult to express themselves adequately in this language for no fault of their own. The difficulty will be not only for want of practice, but also because political thoughts have naturally taken form in our minds in English. So Hindi will have to remain optional in our national proceedings until a new generation of politicians, fully alive to its importance, pave the way towards its general use by constant practice, as a voluntary acceptance of a national obligation. Yours very sincerely, Rabindra.
Despite formal address till 1990, dear Mr. Gandhi, Tagore refers to Gandhi as Mahatma as early as February 1915.
30th April 1918, Delhi. Dear Gurudev, much as I should like to keep Mr. Andrews with me a little longer, I feel sure he must leave for Calcutta tonight. I know you want his soothing presence by you, whilst you are keeping infant health. And you must have him while you need him. We are on the threshold of a mighty change in India. I would like all the pure forces to be physically in the country during the process of her new birth. If therefore you could at all find rest anywhere in India, I would ask you and Mr. Andrews to remain in the country and kindly lend me Mr. Andrews now and then. His guidance at times is most precious to me. I hope you will soon recover from the nervous strain you're suffering. Yours sincerely, M.K. Gandhi.
On 23rd March 1990, Gandhiji called upon the people of India to mobilize in thousands and observe a day of humiliation and prayer as a mark of protest against the Rowlatt Acts.
April 1919, Bombay. Dear Gurudev, this is an appeal to you against our mutual friend Charlie Andrews. I've been pleading with him for a message from you for publication in the national struggle, which, though in form it is only directed against a single piece of legislation, is in reality a struggle for liberty worthy of a self-respecting nation. I have waited long and patiently. Charlie's description of your illness made me hesitate to write to you personally. Your health is a national treasure, and Charlie's devotion to you is superhuman. I have respected this lofty desire of his to protect you from all harm, but I find that you are lecturing in Banaras. I have therefore, in the light of this fact, corrected Charlie's description of your health, which somewhat alarmed me, and I venture to ask you for a message from you. A message of hope and inspiration for those who have to go through the fire. I do it because you were good enough to send me your blessings when I embarked upon the struggle. The forces arrayed against me, as you know, are enormous. I do not dread them, for I have an unquenchable belief that they are supporting untruth. And if we have sufficient faith in truth, It will enable us to overpower the former, but all forces work through human agency. I am therefore anxious to gather round this mighty struggle the ennobling assistance of those who approve it. I will not be happy until I have received your considered opinion on this endeavor to purify the political life of the country. If you have seen anything to alter your first opinion of it, I hope you will not hesitate to make it known. I value even adverse opinions from friends, for though they may not make me change my course, they do serve the purpose of so many lighthouses giving out warnings of dangers lying in the stormy paths of life. Charlie's friendship has been to me on this account an invaluable treasure, because he does not hesitate to share with me even his unconsidered notes of dissent. This I count a great privilege. May I ask you to extend at this critical moment the same privilege that Charlie has. I hope that you're keeping well, and that you thoroughly recuperated from your fatiguing journey through the Madras presidency. Yours sincerely, MKG.
Tagore replied a week later. He wrote the letter on the eve of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, when martial law had been promulgated in Punjab and brute force was being used by the rulers. A copy of the same was communicated to the press.
1919, Shantiniketan. Dear Mahatma ji, power in all its forms is irrational. It is like the horse that drags the carriage blindfolded. The moral elements in it is only represented in the man who drives the horse. Passive resistance is a force which is not necessarily moral in itself. It can be used against truth as well as for it. The danger inherent in all force grows stronger when it is likely to gain success, for then it becomes temptation. I know your teaching is to fight against evil by the help of the good. But such a fight is for heroes and not for men led by impulses of the moment. Evil on one side naturally begets evil on the other. Injustices leading to violence and insult to vengefulness. Unfortunately, such a force has already been started, and either through panic or through wrath, our authorities have shown us their claws, whose sure effect is to drive some of us into the secret path of resentment, and others into utter demoralization. In this crisis, you as a great leader of men have stood among us to proclaim your faith in the ideal, which you know to be that of India. The ideal which is both against the cowardliness of hidden revenge and the cowed submissiveness of the terror-stricken. You have said, as Lord Buddha had done in his time and for all time to come, Akodhena jine kodhanna sadhan sadhuna jine. Conquer anger by the power of non-anger, and evil by the power of good. I have always felt and said accordingly that the great gift of freedom can never come to a people through charity. We must win it before we can own it. And India's opportunity for winning it will come to her when she can prove that she is morally superior to the people who rule her by their right of conquest. She must willingly accept her penance of suffering. The suffering which is the crown of the great. This is why I pray most fervently that nothing that tends to weaken our spiritual freedom may intrude into your marching line. The martyrdom for the cause of truth may never degenerate into fanaticism for mere verbal forms, descending into self-deception that hides itself behind sacred names. With these few words for an introduction, allow me to offer the following as a poet's contribution to your noble work. Let me hold my head high in this faith that thou art our shelter. That all fear is mean distrust of thee, fear of man, but what man is there in this world? What king or king of kings, who is thy rival? Who has hold of me for all time and in all truth? What power is there in this world to rob me of my freedom? For do not the arms reach the captive through the dungeon walls, bringing unfettered release to the soul? Must I cling to this body in fear of death as a miser to his barren treasure? Has not this spirit of mine the eternal call to the feast of everlasting life? Give me the supreme courage of love. This is my prayer. The courage to speak, to do, to suffer at thy will. To leave all things or be left alone. Give me the supreme faith of love. This is my prayer. The faith of the life and death, of the victory and defeat, of the power hidden in the frailness of beauty, of the dignity of pain that accepts hurt but disdains to return it.
30th May, 1919. Your Excellency, the enormity of the measures taken by the government in the Punjab for quelling some local disturbances has with a rude shock revealed to our minds the helplessness of our position as British subjects in India. The disproportionate severity of the punishments inflicted upon the unfortunate people and the methods of carrying them out, we are convinced, are without parallel in the history of civilized governments, barring some conspicuous exceptions, recent and remote. Considering that such treatment has been meted out to a population disarmed and resourceless by a power which has the most terribly efficient organization for destruction of human lives, we must strongly assert that it can claim no political expediency, far less moral justification. The accounts of the insults and sufferings undergone by our brothers in the Punjab have trickled through the gagged silence, reaching every corner of India, and the universal agony of indignation roused in the hearts of our people has been ignored by our rulers, possibly congratulating themselves for imparting what they imagine as salutary lessons. This callousness has been praised by most of the Anglo-Indian papers, which have in some cases gone to the brutal length of making fun of our sufferings without receiving the least check from the same authority, relentlessly careful in smothering every cry of pain and expression of judgment from the organs representing the sufferers. Knowing that our appeals have been in vain, and that the passion of vengeance is blinding the noble vision of statesmanship in our government, which could so easily afford to be magnanimous as befitting its physical strength and moral tradition. The very least that I can do for my country to take all the consequences upon myself in giving voice to the protest of the millions of my countrymen, surprised into a dumb anguish of terror.
The time has come when badges of honor make our shame glaring in their incongruous context of humiliation. And I, for my part, wish to stand shorn of all special distinctions by the side of my countrymen, who, for their so-called insignificance, are liable to suffer a degradation not fit for human beings. And these are the reasons which have painfully compelled me to ask Your Excellency, with due deference and regret, to relieve me of my title of knighthood, which I had the honor to accept from His Majesty the King at the hands of your predecessor, for whose nobleness of heart I still entertain great admiration.
From 1919 to 1922, the Khilafat and the non-cooperation movements catapulted Mahatma Gandhi to the position of the leadership of mass movements. This included boycott of government schools and inducing the people to take on Swadeshi products and to give up foreign cloth. Tagore began to feel uncomfortable at variance with some of the actions, agendas and practices which these programs led to. Tagore was out of India when the non-cooperation movement started in full swing, but he observed its progress. And he shared his anxieties about some failings of the movement as he perceived it with C.F. Andrews. Gandhi might have had an inkling of Tagore's line of criticism because Gandhi writes to Andrews in March 1921 that in his opinion, Tagore
had not understood the simple beauty and duty of non-cooperation.
And when this criticism became public, it was indeed exercised. Gandhi rejected the idea that Tagore and M.M. Malviya, who also voiced criticism, were envious. But he also said,
both lack fearlessness and are proud of their opinions and ideas. You can tolerate pride if not accompanied by fear.
The day is sure to come when the frail man of spirit, completely unhampered by arms and air fleets and dreadnoughts, will prove that the meek is to inherit the earth. It is in the fitness of things that Mahatma Gandhi, frail in body and devoid of all material resources, should call up the immense power of the meek that has been lying waiting in the heart of the destitute and insulted humanity of India. Our fight is a spiritual fight for man. We are to emancipate man from the meshes that he himself has woven round him, these organizations of national egoism. We, the famished, ragged ragamuffins of the East, are to win freedom for all humanity. We have no word for nation in our language. When we borrow the word from other people, it never fits us. I have seen the West. I covet not the unholy feast in which he revels every moment, growing more and more bloated and red and dangerously delirious. Not for us this mad orgy of midnight with lighted torches, but awakenment in the serene light of dawn. The idea of non-cooperation is political asceticism. In its passive moral form is asceticism, and in its active moral form is violence. The desert is as much a form of himsa as is the raging sea. They are both against life. I say again and again that I am a poet, that I'm not a fighter by nature. I would give everything to be one with my surroundings. I love my fellow beings and I prize their love, yet I have been chosen by destiny to ply my boat there where the current is against me. What irony of fate is this, that I should be teaching cooperation of cultures between East and West on this side of the sea, just at the moment when the doctrine of non-cooperation is preached on the other side. Therefore, it hurts me deeply when the cry of rejection rings loud against the West in my country with the clamor that the Western education can only injure us. It cannot be true. What has caused the mischief is the fact that for a long time we have been out of touch with our own culture, and therefore the Western culture has not found its perspective, giving our mental eye a squint. When we have the intellectual capital of our own, the commerce of thought with the outer world becomes natural and fully profitable. But to say that such commerce is inherently wrong is to encourage the worst form of provincialism, productive of nothing but intellectual indigence. The West has misunderstood the East, which is at the root of the disharmony that prevails between them. But will it then matters if the East in her turn tries to misunderstand the West? The present age has powerfully been possessed by the West. It has only become possible because to her is given some great mission for man. We from the East have come to her to learn whatever she has to teach us, for by doing so we hasten the fulfillment of this age. We know that the East also has a lesson to give, and she has her own responsibility of not allowing her light to be extinguished. And the time will come when the West will find leisure to realize that she has a home of hers in the East where her food is and her rest. Rabindra.
Gandhi's response was sharp and swift, and it appeared as an article in the June 1921 issue of Young India. His critique was titled, English Learning.
Elsewhere, the reader will see my humble endeavor in reply to Dr. Tagore's criticism of non-cooperation. I have since read his letter to the manager of Shantiniketan. I am sorry to observe that the letter is written in anger and in ignorance of facts. The poet was naturally incensed to find that certain students in London would not give a hearing to Mr. Pearson, one of the truest of Englishmen. And he became equally incensed to learn that I had told our women to stop English studies. The reasons for my advice the poet evidently inferred for himself. If he, with a poet's imagination, had seen that I was incapable of wishing to cramp the mind of the Indian women, and I could not object to English learning as such, and recalled the fact that throughout my life I had fought for the fullest liberty for women, he would have been saved the injustice which he has done me and which I know he would never knowingly do to an avowed enemy. The poet does not know, perhaps, that English is today studied because of its commercial and so-called political value. Our boys think, and rightly in the present circumstances, that without English, they cannot get government service. Girls are taught English as a passport to marriage. I know several instances of women wanting to learn English so that they may be able to talk to Englishmen in English. I know husbands who are sorry that their wives cannot talk to them and their friends in English. I know families in which English is being made the mother tongue. Hundreds of youth believe that without a knowledge of English, freedom for India is practically impossible. The canker has so eaten into our society that in many cases the only meaning of education is a knowledge of English. All these, to me, are signs of our slavery and degradation. It is unbearable to me that the vernaculars should be crushed and starved as they have been. I cannot tolerate the idea of parents writing to their children, of husbands writing to their wives not in their own vernaculars but in English. I hope I am as great a believer in free air as the great poet. I do not want my house to be walled in on all sides. I want the cultures of all lands to be blown about my house as freely as possible. But I refuse to be blown off my feet by any. I refuse to live in other people's homes as an interloper, a beggar, or a slave. I would have our young men and women with literary tastes to learn as much of English and other world languages as they desire, and then expect them to give the benefits of their learning to India and to the world, like our scientist books, Roy, or the poet himself. But I would not have a single Indian to forget, neglect, or be ashamed of his mother tongue, or to feel that he or she cannot think or express their best thoughts in his or her own vernacular. Mine is not a religion of the prison house. It has room for the least of God's creations, but it is proof against insolence, pride of race, religion, or color. I am extremely sorry for the poet's misreading of this great movement or reformation, purification, and patriotism spelled humanity. If he will be patient, he will find no cause for sorrow or shame for his countrymen. I respectfully warn him against mistaking its excrescences for the movement itself. It is as wrong to judge non-cooperation by the students' misconduct in London or Maligaons in India as it would be to judge Englishmen by the dyers or the Odwayers.
Gandhi did not stop at this. The June 1921 issue of Young India carries another piece by him critiquing Tagore's viewpoint, and this piece was titled The Poet's Anxiety.
In all humility, I shall endeavor to answer the poet's doubts. I may fail to convince him or the reader who may have been touched by his eloquence, but I would like to assure him and India that non-cooperation in conception is not any of the things he fears. If in actual application it appears in the end to have failed, it will be no more the fault of the doctrine than it would be of truth. Non-cooperation may have come in advance of its time. India and the world must then wait. But there is no option for India save between violence and non-cooperation. Nor need the poet fear that non-cooperation is intended to erect a Chinese wall between India and the West. On the contrary, non-cooperation is intended to pave the way to real, honorable, and voluntary cooperation based on mutual respect and trust. The present struggle is being waged against compulsory cooperation, against one-sided combination, against the armed imposition of modern methods of exploitation masquerading under the name of civilization. Non-cooperation is a protest against an unwitting and unwilling participation in evil.
Parasites have to pay for their ready-made victuals by losing the power of assimilating food in natural form. In the history of man, this same sin of laziness has always entailed degeneracy. But Providence displayed a sudden extension of creative courage when it came to man. For his inner nature has not been tied down, though outwardly the poor human creature has been left naked, weak, and defenseless. In spite of these disabilities, man, in the joy of his inward freedom, has stood up and declared, I shall achieve the impossible. That is to say, he has consistently refused to submit to the rule of things as they always have been, but is determined to bring about happenings that have never been before. The Mahatma has won the heart of India with his love. For that, we have all acknowledged his sovereignty. He has given us a vision of the Shakti of truth. That our gratitude to him is unbounded. We read about truth in books, we talk about it. So it is indeed a red letter day when we see it face to face. Rare is the moment in many a long year when such good fortune happens. But if having seen truth, our belief in it is not confirmed, what is the good of it all? The command to burn our foreign clothes has been laid on us. I, for one, am unable to obey it, firstly because I conceive it to be my very first duty to put up a valiant fight against this terrible habit of blindly obeying orders. And this fight can never be carried on by our people being driven from one injunction to another. Secondly, I feel that the clothes to be burnt are not mine, but belong to those who most sorely need them. Those who are going naked should have given us the mandate to burn. It would at least have been a case of self-immolation, and the crime of incendiaries would not lie at our door. But how can we expiate the sin of the forcible destruction of clothes, which might have gone to women whose nakedness is actually keeping them prisoners, unable to stir out of the privacy of their homes? I have said repeatedly and must repeat once more that we cannot afford to lose our mind for the sake of any external gain. Where Mahatma Gandhi has declared war against the tyranny of the machine, which is oppressing the whole world, we are all enrolled under that banner. But we must refuse to accept as our ally the illusion-haunted, magic-ridden slave mentality that is at the root of all poverty and insults under which our country grows. Here is the enemy itself, on whose defeat alone Swaraj within and without can come to us. The time, moreover, has arrived when we must think of one more thing, and that is this. The awakening of India is a part of the awakening of the world. The door of the new age has been flung open at the trumpet blast of a great war. Judher damama utloveje. We have read in the Mahabharata how the day of self-revelation had to be preceded by a year of retirement. The same has happened in the world today. From now onward, any nation which takes an isolated view of its own country will run counter to the spirit of the new age and know no peace. From now onward, the anxiety that each country has for its own safety must embrace the world.
The Bard of Shantiniketan has contributed to the Modern Review a brilliant essay on the present movement. It is a series of word pictures that he alone can paint. The poet tells us summarily to reject anything and everything that does not appeal to our reason or heart. If we would gain Swaraj, we must stand for truth as we know it at any cost. And I would feel extremely sorry to discover that the country had unthinkingly and blindly followed all I had said or done. The poet has invited all who are slavishly mimicking the call of the Chakha boldly to declare their revolt. This essay serves as a warning to us all who in our impatience are betrayed into intolerance or even violence against those who differ from us. I regard the poet as a sentinel, warning us against the approaching enemies called bigotry, lethargy, intolerance, ignorance, inertia, and other members of that brood. But whilst I agree with all that the poet has said as of the necessity of watchfulness, lest we should cease to think, I must not be understood to endorse the proposition that there is any such blind obedience on a large scale in the country today. I have again and again appealed to reason. And let me assure him that if happily the country has come to believe in the spinning wheel as a giver of plenty, it has done so after laborious thinking and after great hesitation. I'm not sure that even now educated India has assimilated the truth underlying the charkha. He must not mistake the surface dirt for the substance underneath. Let him go deeper and see for himself whether the charkha has been accepted from blind faith or from reasoned necessity. Hunger is the argument that is driving India to the spinning wheel. The call of the spinning wheel is the noblest of them all because it is the call of love. And love is Swaraj. Why should I, who have no need to work for food, spin? Maybe the question asked, because I am eating what does not belong to me. I'm living on the spoliation of my countrymen. Trace the course of every pice that finds its way into your pocket, and you will realize the truth of what I write. Swaraj has no meaning for the millions if they do not know how to employ their enforced idleness. I do want growth. I do want self-determination. I do want freedom. But I want all those things for the soul. A plea for the spinning wheel is a plea for recognizing the dignity of labor. I claim that in losing the spinning wheel, we lost our left lung. We are therefore suffering from galloping consumption. The restoration of the wheel will arrest the progress of the fell disease. I venture to suggest to the poet that the clothes I ask him to burn must be and are his. If they had to his knowledge belonged to the poor or the ill-clad, he would long ago have restored to the poor what was theirs. In burning my foreign clothes, I burn my shame. I must refuse to insult the naked by giving them clothes they do not need, instead of giving them work which they sorely need. I will not commit the sin of becoming their patron, but on learning that I had assisted in impoverishing them, I would give them a privileged position and give them neither crumbs nor cast-off clothing, but the best of my food and clothes, and associate myself with them in work. Nor is the scheme of non-cooperation or Swadeshi an exclusive doctrine. My modesty has prevented me from declaring from the housetop that the message of non-cooperation, non-violence and Swadeshi is a message to the world. It must fall flat if it does not bear fruit in the soil where it has been delivered. The 100 millions ask for one word: invigorating food. They cannot be given it. They must earn it, and they can earn only by the sweat of their brow.
नियतं कुरु कर्मतं कर्मजायोढः कर्मणः शरीरयात्रापि चैतेन.
These verses of Bhagavad Gita is contained for me the whole truth of the spinning wheel as an indispensable sacrament for the India of today. If we will take care of today, God will take care of tomorrow.
सहयज्ञा प्रजाः षष्ठा गुरुवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसविष्यद्वैमेष गोऽस्तित्वाकाशमधिकः देवान् भावयतानेन ते देवा भावयन्तु वः परस्परं भावयन्तः श्रेयपरमावाप्स्यथ इष्टान् भोगान् हि वो देवा दास्यन्ते यज्ञभाविताः ते दत्तान् प्रदाभ्यो यो भुक्तेस्तेन एव स यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तो मुच्यते सर्वकिलशिखे मुच्यते त्वघं पापाय पञ्चाध्यात्मकारणात् अन्यानि भवन्ति भूतानि
Include for 10 minutes, please.
For destruction of human lives, we must strongly assert that it can claim no political expediency, far less moral justification. The accounts of the insults and sufferings undergone by our brothers in the Punjab have trickled through the gagged silence, reaching every corner of India. And the universal agony of indignation roused in the hearts of our people has been ignored by our rulers, possibly congratulating themselves for imparting what they imagine as salutary lessons. This callousness has been praised by most of the Anglo-Indian papers, which have in some cases gone to the brutal length of making fun of our sufferings without receiving the least check from the same authority, relentlessly careful in smothering every cry of pain and expression of judgment from the organs representing the sufferers. Knowing that our appeals have been in vain, and that the passion of vengeance is blinding the noble vision of statesmanship in our government, which could so easily afford to be magnanimous as befitting its physical strength and moral tradition. The very least that I can do for my country is to take all the consequences upon myself in giving voice to the protest of the millions of my countrymen, surprised into a dumb anguish of terror.
The time has come when badges of honor make our shame glaring in their incongruous context of humiliation. And I, for my part, wish to stand shorn of all special distinctions by the side of my countrymen, who, for their so-called insignificance, are liable to suffer a degradation not fit for human beings. And these are the reasons which have painfully compelled me to ask Your Excellency, with due deference and regret, to relieve me of my title of knighthood, which I had the honor to accept from His Majesty the King at the hands of your predecessor, for whose nobleness of heart I still entertain great admiration.
From 1919 to 1922, the Khilafat and the non-cooperation movements catapulted Mahatma Gandhi to the position of the leadership of mass movements. This included boycott of government schools and inducing the people to take on Swadeshi products and to give up foreign cloth. Tagore began to feel uncomfortable at variance with some of the actions, agendas and practices which these programs led to. Tagore was out of India when the non-cooperation movement started in full swing, but he observed its progress. And he shared his anxieties about some failings of the movement as he perceived it with C.F. Andrews. Gandhi might have had an inkling of Tagore's line of criticism because Gandhi writes to Andrews in March 1921 that in his opinion, Tagore
had not understood the simple beauty and duty of non-cooperation.
And when this criticism became public, he was indeed exercised. Gandhi rejected the idea that Tagore and M.M. Malviya, who also voiced criticism, were envious. But he also said,
both lack fearlessness and are proud of their opinions and ideas. You can tolerate pride if not accompanied by fear.
The day is sure to come when the frail man of spirit, completely unhampered by arms and air fleets and dreadnoughts, will prove that the meek is to inherit the earth. It is in the fitness of things that Mahatma Gandhi, frail in body and devoid of all material resources, should call up the immense power of the meek that has been lying waiting in the heart of the destitute and insulted humanity of India. Our fight is a spiritual fight for man. We are to emancipate man from the meshes that he himself has woven round him, these organizations of national egoism. We, the famished, ragged ragamuffins of the East, are to win freedom for all humanity. We have no word for nation in our language. When we borrow the word from other people, it never fits us. I have seen the West. I covet not the unholy feast in which he revels every moment, growing more and more bloated and red and dangerously delirious. Not for us this mad orgy of midnight with lighted torches, but awakenment in the serene light of dawn. The idea of non-cooperation is political asceticism. In its passive moral form is asceticism, and in its active moral form is violence. The desert is as much a form of himsa as is the raging sea. They are both against life. I say again and again that I am a poet, that I'm not a fighter by nature. I would give everything to be one with my surroundings. I love my fellow beings and I prize their love, yet I have been chosen by destiny to ply my boat there where the current is against me. What irony of fate is this, that I should be preaching cooperation of cultures between East and West on this side of the sea, just at the moment when the doctrine of non-cooperation is preached on the other side. Therefore it hurts me deeply when the cry of rejection rings loud against the West in my country with the clamour that the Western education can only injure us. It cannot be true. What has caused the mischief is the fact that for a long time we have been out of touch with our own culture, and therefore the Western culture has not found its perspective, giving our mental eye a squint. When we have the intellectual capital of our own, the commerce of thought with the outer world becomes natural and fully profitable. But to say that such commerce is inherently wrong is to encourage the worst form of provincialism, productive of nothing but intellectual indigence. The West has misunderstood the East, which is at the root of the disharmony that prevails between them. But will it matter if the East in her turn tries to misunderstand the West? The present age has powerfully been possessed by the West. It has only become possible because to her is given some great mission for man. We from the East have come to her to learn whatever she has to teach us, for by doing so we hasten the fulfillment of this age. We know that the East also has a lesson to give, and she has her own responsibility of not allowing her light to be extinguished. And the time will come when the West will find leisure to realize that she has a home of hers in the East where her food is and her rest. Rabindra, Tagore.
Gandhi's response was sharp and swift, and it appeared as an article in the June 1921 issue of Young India. His critique was titled, English Learning.
Elsewhere, the reader will see my humble endeavour in reply to Dr. Tagore's criticism of non-cooperation. I have since read his letter to the manager of Shantiniketan. I am sorry to observe that the letter is written in anger and in ignorance of facts. The poet was naturally incensed to find that certain students in London would not give a hearing to Mr. Pearson, one of the truest of Englishmen, and he became equally incensed to learn that I had told our women to stop English studies. The reasons for my advice the poet evidently inferred for himself. If he, with a poet's imagination, had seen that I was incapable of wishing to cramp the mind of the Indian women, and I could not object to English learning as such, and recalled the fact that throughout my life I had fought for the fullest liberty for women, he would have been saved the injustice which he has done me and which I know he would never knowingly do to an avowed enemy. The poet does not know, perhaps, that English is today studied because of its commercial and so-called political value. Our boys think, and rightly in the present circumstances, that without English, they cannot get government service. Girls are taught English as a passport to marriage. I know several instances of women wanting to learn English so that they may be able to talk to Englishmen in English. I know husbands who are sorry that their wives cannot talk to them and their friends in English. I know families in which English is being made the mother tongue. Hundreds of youth believe that without a knowledge of English, freedom for India is practically impossible. The canker has so eaten into our society that in many cases the only meaning of education is a knowledge of English. All these, to me, are signs of our slavery and degradation. It is unbearable to me that the vernaculars should be crushed and starved as they have been. I cannot tolerate the idea of parents writing to their children, of husbands writing to their wives not in their own vernaculars but in English. I hope I am as great a believer in free air as the great poet. I do not want my house to be walled in on all sides. I want the cultures of all lands to be blown about my house as freely as possible. But I refuse to be blown off my feet by any. I refuse to live in other people's homes as an interloper, a beggar, or a slave. I would have our young men and women with literary tastes to learn as much of English and other world languages as they desire, and then expect them to give the benefits of their learning to India and to the world, like our scientist books, Roy, or the poet himself. But I would not have a single Indian to forget, neglect, or be ashamed of his mother tongue, or to feel that he or she cannot think or express their best thoughts in his or her own vernacular. Mine is not a religion of the prison house. It has room for the least of God's creations, but it is proof against insolence, pride of race, religion, or color. I am extremely sorry for the poet's misreading of this great movement of reformation, purification, and patriotism spelled humanity. If he will be patient, he will find no cause for sorrow or shame for his countrymen. I respectfully warn him against mistaking its excrescences for the movement itself. It is as wrong to judge non-cooperation by the students' misconduct in London or Maligaons in India as it would be to judge Englishmen by the dyers or the Odwayers.
Gandhi did not stop at this. The June 1921 issue of Young India carries another piece by him critiquing Tagore's viewpoint. And this piece was titled The Poet's Anxiety.
In all humility, I shall endeavor to answer the poet's doubts. I may fail to convince him or the reader who may have been touched by his eloquence, but I would like to assure him and India that non-cooperation in conception is not any of the things he fears. If in actual application it appears in the end to have failed, it will be no more the fault of the doctrine than it would be of truth. Non-cooperation may have come in advance of its time. India and the world must then wait But there is no option for India save between violence and non-cooperation. Nor need the poet fear that non-cooperation is intended to erect a Chinese wall between India and the West. On the contrary, non-cooperation is intended to pave the way to real, honorable, and voluntary cooperation based on mutual respect and trust. The present struggle is being waged against compulsory cooperation, against one-sided combination, against the armed imposition of modern methods of exploitation masquerading under the name of civilization. Non-cooperation is a protest against an unwitting and unwilling participation in evil.
Parasites. Parasites have to pay for their ready-made victuals by losing the power of assimilating food in natural form. In the history of man, this same sin of laziness has always entailed degeneracy. But Providence displayed a sudden accession of creative courage when it came to man. For his inner nature has not been tied down, though outwardly the poor human creature has been left naked, weak, and defenseless. In spite of these disabilities, man, in the joy of his inward freedom, has stood up and declared, "I shall achieve the impossible." That is to say, he has consistently refused to submit to the rule of things as they always have been, but is determined to bring about happenings that have never been before. The Mahatma has won the heart of India with his love. For that, we have all acknowledged his sovereignty. He has given us a vision of the Shakti of truth. To that, our gratitude to him is unbounded. We read about truth in books, we talk about it. So it is indeed a red letter day when we see it face to face. Rare is the moment in many a long year when such good fortune happens. But if having seen truth, our belief in it is not confirmed, what is the good of it all? The command to burn our foreign clothes has been laid on us. I, for one, am unable to obey it, firstly because I conceive it to be my very first duty to put up a valiant fight against this terrible habit of blindly obeying orders. And this fight can never be carried on by our people being driven from one injunction to another. Secondly, I feel that the clothes to be burnt are not mine, but belong to those who most sorely need them. Those who are going naked should have given us the mandate to burn. It would at least have been a case of self-immolation, and the crime of incendiaries would not lie at our door. But how can we expiate the sin of the forcible destruction of clothes, which might have gone to women whose nakedness is actually keeping them prisoners, unable to stir out of the privacy of their homes? I have said repeatedly and must repeat once more that we cannot afford to lose our mind for the sake of any external gain. Where Mahatma Gandhi has declared war against the tyranny of the machine, which is oppressing the whole world, we are all enrolled under that banner. But we must refuse to accept as our ally the illusion-haunted, magic-ridden slave mentality that is at the root of all poverty and insults under which our country groans. Here is the enemy itself, on whose defeat alone Swaraj within and without can come to us. The time, moreover, has arrived when we must think of one more thing, and that is this. The awakening of India is a part of the awakening of the world. The door of the new age has been flung open at the trumpet blast of a great war. Juthe damama utlo beje. We have read in the Mahabharata how the day of self-revelation had to be preceded by a year of retirement. The same has happened in the world today. From now onward, any nation which takes an isolated view of its own country will run counter to the spirit of the new age and know no peace. From now onward, the anxiety that each country has for its own safety must embrace the world.
The Bard of Shantiniketan has contributed to the Modern Review a brilliant essay on the present movement. It is a series of word pictures that he alone can paint. The poet tells us summarily to reject anything and everything that does not appeal to our reason or heart. If we would gain Swaraj, we must stand for truth as we know it at any cost. And I would feel extremely sorry to discover that the country had unthinkingly and blindly followed all I had said or done. The poet has invited all who are slavishly mimicking the call of the Chakha boldly to declare their revolt. His essay serves as a warning to us all who in our impatience are betrayed into intolerance or even violence against those who differ from us. I regard the poet as a sentinel, warning us against the approaching enemies called bigotry, lethargy, intolerance, ignorance, inertia, and other members of that brood. But whilst I agree with all that the poet has said as of the necessity of watchfulness, lest we should cease to think, I must not be understood to endorse the proposition that there is any such blind obedience on a large scale in the country today. I have again and again appealed to reason. And let me assure him that if happily the country has come to believe in the spinning wheel as a giver of plenty, it has done so after laborious thinking and after great hesitation. I'm not sure that even now educated India has assimilated the truth underlying the Charkha. He must not mistake the surface dirt for the substance underneath. Let him go deeper and see for himself whether the Charkha has been accepted from blind faith or from reasoned necessity. Hunger is the argument that is driving India to the spinning wheel. The call of the spinning wheel is the noblest of them all because it is the call of love. And love is Swaraj. Why should I, who have no need to work for food, spin? Maybe the question asked, because I am eating what does not belong to me. I'm living on the spoliation of my countrymen. Trace the course of every pice that finds its way into your pocket, and you will realize the truth of what I write. Swaraj has no meaning for the millions if they do not know how to employ their enforced idleness. I do want growth. I do want self-determination. I do want freedom. But I want all those things for the soul. A plea for the spinning wheel is a plea for recognizing the dignity of labor. I claim that in losing the spinning wheel, we lost our left lung. We are therefore suffering from galloping consumption. The restoration of the wheel will arrest the progress of the fell disease. I venture to suggest to the poet that the clothes I ask him to burn must be and are his. If they had to his knowledge belonged to the poor or the ill-clad, he would long ago have restored to the poor what was theirs. In burning my foreign clothes, I burn my shame. I must refuse to insult the naked by giving them clothes they do not need, instead of giving them work which they sorely need. I will not commit the sin of becoming their patron, but on learning that I had assisted in impoverishing them, I would give them a privileged position and give them neither crumbs nor cast-off clothing, but the best of my food and clothes, and associate myself with them in work. Nor is the scheme of non-cooperation or Swadeshi an exclusive doctrine. My modesty has prevented me from declaring from the housetop the message of non-cooperation. Non-violence and Swadeshi is a message to the world. It must fall flat. If it does not bear fruit in the soil where it has been delivered, the 100 millions ask for one word: invigorating food. They cannot be given it. They must earn it, and they can earn only by the sweat of their brow.
नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्मजायो कर्मणः शरीर यात्रापि चेतेन.
These verses of Bhagavad Gita is contained for me the whole truth of the spinning wheel as an indispensable sacrament for the India of today. If we will take care of today, God will take care tomorrow.
सहयज्ञा प्रजाः षष्ठा पुरोवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसविष्यद्वैनेश गोऽस्तित्वाकाशमधुकः देवान् भावयतानेन ते देवा भावयन्तु वः परस्परं भावयन्तः श्रेय परमावाप्स्यथ. इष्ठान् भोगान् हि वो देवा दास्यन्ते यज्ञभाविताः ते दत्तान् प्रदाभ्यो यो भुक्तेस्तेन एव सः. यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तो मुच्यते सर्वकिल्बिषे मुच्यते त्वघं पापाय पञ्चाध्यात्मकारणात् अन्यान् भवन्ति भूतानि.
Interval for 10 minutes, please.
नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्मजायो कर्मणः शरीर यात्रापि चेतेन प्रसिद्धयेद कर्मणः. यज्ञार्थो कर्मणो यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः.
Soon after this debate on Charkha and Swaraj, Gandhi was arrested. With Gandhi in prison, Tagore suspended the debate. Upon Gandhi's release from prison, in fact on the very day of his release in February 1924, Tagore sent him a cable.
5th February 1924, Shantiniketan. To Mahatma Gandhi, Sassoon Hospital, Pune. We rejoice, Rabindra Nath.
18th May 1925. Dear Gurudev, Nepal Babu has sent me your very kind and cordial note. I do want to pass a day or two at Bolpur. I would not think of your leaving Bolpur to meet me. I know the delicate state of your health. I shall inform you of the date when I can come. I am yours, M.K. Gandhi.
27th December 1925, Shantiniketan. Dear Mahatma ji, I have seen the letter you have written to our Shastri Mahashaya. It is full of your noble spirit. You have my assurance that even if you ever hit me hard in the cause of what you think is truth, our personal relationship based upon mutual respect will bear that strain and will remain uninjured. With Namaskar, Rabindra, Nath.
3rd January 1926, Southern. Dear Gurudev, I am thankful for your sweet letter. It has given me much relief. Yours sincerely, M.K. Gandhi.
With Gandhi out of prison, Tagore resumed his debate on Charkha and Swaraj. His contribution, The Cult of Charkha, appeared in the September 1925 issue of the Modern Review.
I am not ashamed. Though there is every reason to be afraid, to admit that the depths of my mind have not been moved by the Charkha agitation. There are many who assert and some who believe that Swaraj can be attained by the Charkha. But I am yet to meet a person who has a clear idea of the process. That is why there is no discussion but only quarreling over the question. If I state that it is not possible to repel foreign invaders armed with guns and cannons by the indigenous bow and arrow, there will, I suppose, still be some who say, why not? It has already been said by some. Would not the foreigners be drowned out if every one of the 330 million were only to spit at them? While not denying the fearsomeness of such a flood or the efficacy of such a suggestion, the difficulty which my mind feels to be insuperable is that you can never get all these millions even to spit in unison. It is too simple for the human beings. The same difficulty applies to the Charkha solution. It is extremely distasteful of me to have to differ from Mahatma Gandhi in any matter of principle or method. Not that from a higher standpoint there is anything wrong in so doing. But my heart shrinks from it. For what could be greater joy than to join hands in the field of work with one for whom I have always had such love and reverence. Nothing is more wonderful to me than Mahatma Ji's great moral personality. In him, divine providence has given us a burning thunderbolt of Shakti. May this Shakti give power to India, not overwhelm her. That is my prayer. The difference in our standpoints and temperaments has made the Mahatma look upon Ram Mohan Roy as a pig, while I revere him as a giant. The same difference makes the Mahatma's field of work one which my conscience cannot accept as its own. That is a regret which will abide with me always. I feel sure that the Mahatma himself will not fail to understand me and keep for me the same forbearance which he has always had. As for my countrymen, the public, accustomed as they are to drown under the facile flow of their minds, both past services and past disservices done to them, if today they cannot find it in their hearts to forgive, they will forget tomorrow. And even if they do not, if for me their displeasure is fated to be permanent, so be it.
When Sir Rabindranath's criticism of the Charkha was published some time ago, several friends asked me to reply to. Being heavily engaged, I was unable then to study it in full, but I had read enough of it to know its trend. I was in no hurry to reply. Those who had read it were too much agitated or influenced to be able to appreciate what I might have then written, even if I had the time. Now, therefore, is really the time for me to write on it and to ensure a dispassionate view being taken of the poet's criticism or my reply, if such it may be called. The poet sent me the message that he had written something on the charkha which might not quite please me. I knew therefore what was coming, but it has not displeased me. Why should mere disagreement with my views displease? If every disagreement were to displease, since no two men agree exactly on all points, life would be a bundle of unpleasant sensations and therefore perfect nuisance. On the contrary, the frank criticism pleases me, for our friendship becomes all the richer for our disagreements. Friends to be friends are not called upon to agree even on most points only. Disagreement must have no sharpness, much less bitterness about them. And I am grateful that there is none about the poet's criticism. I am obliged to make these prefatory remarks, as Dame Rumor has whispered that jealousy is the root of all such criticism. Such baseless suspicion betrays an atmosphere of weakness and intolerance. A little reflection must remove all ground for such a cruel charge. Of what should the poet be jealous in me? Jealousy presupposes the possibility of rivalry. Well, I have never succeeded in writing a single rhyme in my life. There is nothing of the poet about me. I cannot aspire after his greatness. He is the undisputed master of it. The world today does not possess his equal as a poet. My Mahatmanship has no relationship to the poet's undisputed position. It is time to realize that our fields are absolutely different and at no point overlapping. The poet lives in a magnificent world of his own creation, his world of ideas. I am a slave of someone else's creation, the spinning wheel. The poet makes his gopis dance to the tune of his flute. I wander after my beloved Sita, the charkha, and seek to deliver her from the 10-headed monster from Japan, Manchester, Paris, etc. The poet is an inventor. He creates, he destroys and recreates. I am an explorer, and having discovered a thing, I must cling to it. The poet presents the world with new and attractive things from day to day. I can merely show the hidden possibilities of old, even worn-out things. The world easily finds an honorable place for the magician who produces new and dazzling things. I have to struggle laboriously to find a corner for my worn-out things. Thus, there is no competition between us. But I might say in all humility that we complement each other's activity. The poet is not expected, he has no need to read Young India. All he knows about the movement is what he has picked up from table talk. He has therefore denounced what he has imagined to be the excesses of the charkha cult. He thinks, for instance, that I want everybody to spin the whole of his or her time to the exclusion of all other activity. That is to say, that I want the poet to forsake his muse, the farmer his plough, the lawyer his brief, and the doctor his lancet. So far is this from the truth that I have asked no one to abandon his calling, but on the contrary to adorn it, by giving every day only 30 minutes to spinning as a sacrifice for the whole nation. I have indeed asked the famishing to spin for a living, and the half-starved farmer to spin during his leisure hours to supplement his slender resources. If the poet spun half an hour daily, his poetry would gain in richness, for it would then represent the poor man's wants and woes in a more forcible manner than now. It is not my purpose to traverse all the poet's arguments in detail. One thing, and one thing alone, has helped me. The poet's belief, again picked up from table talk, that I look upon Ram Mohan Roy as a pygmy. Well, I have never anywhere described the great reformer as a pygmy, much less regarded him as such. He is to me as much a giant as he is to the poet. I do not remember any occasion save one when I had to use Ram Mohan Roy's name. That was in connection with Western education. This was on Cuttack Sands now 4 years ago. What I do remember having said was that it was possible to attain highest culture without Western education. And when someone mentioned Ram Mohan Roy, I remember having said that he was a pygmy compared to the unknown authors, say, of the Upanishads. This is altogether different from looking upon Ram Mohan Roy as a pygmy. Before Milton or Shakespeare, if I say that Tennyson was a pygmy, I claim I enhance the greatness of both. If I adore the poet as he goes, I do in spite of the differences between us. I am not likely to disparage the greatness of the man who made the great reform movement of Bengal possible, and of which the poet is one of the finest fruits.
Tagore was away from India a good deal of time in 1929 and 30, for almost 14 months in those 2 years. He was away lecturing in Japan, Indochina, Canada, USA, USSR, and about 5 West European countries. No letters were exchanged during this period. However, on 18th January 1930, Tagore visited Gandhi at Sabarmati while on tour to collect funds for his school in Shantiniketan. Later that year, when Tagore was in England, he was pressed by journalists to comment on Gandhi's politics, especially in context of the Round Table Conference. Most notable was Tagore's statement supportive of Gandhi in November 1930. In July 1931, Gandhi contributed a message to the felicitation volume for Tagore. On 20th September 1932, at 3 a.m., minutes before his arrest, Gandhi wrote very touchingly to Tagore about the impending resumption of the civil disobedience movement.
Dear Gurudev, this is early morning, 3 o'clock of Tuesday. I enter the fiery gate at noon. If you can bless the effort, I want to. You have been to me a true friend, because you have been candid, often speaking your thoughts aloud. I have looked forward to a firm opinion from you one way or the other, but you have refused to criticize. Though it can now only be during my fast, I will yet prize your criticism if your heart condemns my action. I am not too proud to make an open confession of my blunder, whatever the cost of the confession, if I find myself in error. If your heart approves of the action, I want your blessings. It will sustain me. I hope I have made myself clear. My love, M.K. Gandhi.
Even though they had not communicated with each other for almost 2 years. Strangely, before Gandhi could dispatch this letter, Tagore sent him a cable.
19 September 1932 to Mahatma Gandhi, Yeravada Jail, Pune. It is worth sacrificing precious life for the sake of India's unity and a social integrity. Stop. Though we cannot anticipate what effect it may have upon our rulers, who may not understand its immense importance for our people, we feel certain that the supreme appeal of such self-offering to the conscience of my own countrymen will not be in vain. Stop. I fervently hope that we will not callously allow such national tragedy to reach its extreme length. Stop. Our sorrowing hearts will follow your sublime penance with reverence and love. Rabindra.
20th September 1932, 10:30 a.m. Just as I was handing this to the superintendent, I got your loving and magnificent wire. It will say, sustain me in the midst of the storm I am about to enter. I am sending you a wire. Thank you.
10 days later, Gandhi broke his fast. Tagore immediately shot him a letter expressing his relief at the abandonment of the fast.
30th September 1932, Shantiniketan. Mahatma ji, our people are wonderstruck at the impossible being made possible in these few days, and there is a universal feeling of immense relief that you are being saved for us. Now is the opportune moment when a definite command from you will rouse the Hindu community to make a desperate effort to win over the Mohammedans to our common cause. It is more difficult a success than your fight against untouchability. For there is a deep-rooted antipathy against the Muslims and most of our people, and they also have not much love for ourselves. But you know how to move the hearts of those that are obdurate, and only I am sure have the patient love that can conquer the hatred that has accumulated for ages. I do not know how to calculate political consequences, but I believe that nothing can be too costly which would enable us to win their confidence and convince them that we understand their difficulties and their point of view. It is not for me to advise you, and I shall rely fully upon your judgment as to the course that should be taken. Only one suggestion I would venture to make to you, that you might ask the Hindu Mahasabha to make a conciliatory gesture towards the other party. I have no doubt that you're gaining strength and inspiring every moment strength and hope around you. With reverent love, I'm ever yours, Rabindra Nath Tagore.
9th October 1932. Dear Gurudev, I have your beautiful letter. I am daily seeking light. This unity between Hindus and Muslims is also my life's mission. The restrictions hamper me too. But I know when I have the light, it will pierce through the restrictions. Meanwhile, I pray, though I do not fast yet. You must have seen the statement I have circulated to the press. I want your blessings, if I can have them, for this further effort. I do not know whether you feel that this effort is, if possible, purer than before. The last fast had a political tinge about it, and superficial critics were able to say that it was aimed at the British government. This time, if the ordeal has to come, it will not be possible to give any political color to it. You will, of course, recall that the last fast was broken on the clearest possible notice that I might have to presume if there was any breach of faith by the so-called caste Hindus. The prospective fast about the Guruvayu temple is absolutely a point of honor. It is being made by the Orthodox section of the center of attack and is being given all India significance. I rather like it. But it makes all the more necessary for the liberalizing influences to be collected together and set in motion in order to overthrow the monster of untouchability. I want your wholehearted cooperation, if you feel as I do. I hope you are well. With deep love. Yours, M.K. Gandhi.
15th November 1932, Shantiniketan. Dear Mahatma ji, it is needless to say that I do not at all relish the idea of divinity being enclosed in a brick and mortar temple for the special purpose of exploitation by a particular group of people. You know who I mean. I strongly believe that it is possible for the simple-hearted to realize the presence of God in the open air, in a surrounding free from all artificial obstructions. We know a sect in Bengal, illiterate and not dominated by Brahminical tradition, which enjoys a perfect freedom of worship, profoundly universal in character. Akash Ora Surjo Tara Vishnu Ora Pran Tahari Maj Khane. It was the prohibition for them to enter temples that has helped them in their purity of realization. As to the Shantiniketan prayer hall, it is open to all peoples of every faith, just as its doors do not shut out anybody. So there is nothing in the simple form of worship which excludes people of different religions. I do not think separate buildings are really necessary for prayer and communion with the divine. I have sent a poem for the Harijan, translating it from one of my recent Bengali writings. I do hope it is one in spirit with the ideal of the Harijan, which I read with much pleasure and interest. There can be no more hopeful sign of India than the fact that her oppressed and repressed humanity is waking up as a result of your great fast. With loving regards, yours sincerely.
Yeravada Central Prison, Pune, 2nd May 1933. Dear Gurudev, it is just now 1:45 a.m. and I think of you and some other friends. If your heart endorses contemplated fast, I want your blessings again. My love and respects.
Glenheden, Darjeeling, 9th May 1933. Dear Mahatma ji, evidently the telegram I sent to you some days ago has failed to reach its destination. Though it has appeared in some of the papers. You must not blame me if I cannot feel a complete agreement with the immense responsibility you incur by the step you have taken. However, I must confess I have not the vision which you have before your mind, nor can I fully realize the call which has come only to yourself. And therefore, whatever may happen, I shall try to believe that you are right in your resolve, and that my misgivings may be the outcome of a timidity of ignorance. With love and reverence.
Documents in this period center around three major issues. First, the controversial statement of Gandhi linking the earthquake of Bihar in 1934 with the sin of casteism. In the middle of this controversy, Tagore issued a statement defending Gandhi against his detractors. The second issue was the posture of the Congress establishment, led by prominent Gandhians, towards Subhash Chandra Bose, who was forced to resign presidentship of the Congress. Tagore was unwilling to intervene too much into such matters, but he was deeply worried about the fate of the Congress. Gandhi wrote to Andrews on 15 March 1940 to assuage Tagore's anxieties and to assure Tagore that Subhash was as my son, but he behaved like a spoiled child. The third issue pertained about the financial stability and the future of the Vishwabharati University and of the issue of the university's trusteeship that Tagore offered Gandhi.
21st January 1934. Gurudev, the news about the government measures in Midnapur has dazed me. They appear to be worse than the martial law measures in Punjab in 1919. I get here only the Hindu are doing anything. Is Bengal doing anything? Our cowardice chokes me. Or do I see cowardice where there is none? Can you give me some solace? I hope you are keeping well with deep love. Ever yours, M.K. Gandhi.
Dear Mahatma ji, I have received your letter in which you mention the government measures in Midnapur. Midnapur is by no means an isolated case. It seems the accepted policy of the government is to terrify the people into submission. Detailed news about the latest manifestations of government lawlessness are just reaching us. I have experience enough not to feel surprised. As for protest against this, I am afraid old people like me are of very little practical value. The government as well as my countrymen know my views, and there is no sense in my issuing a fresh statement. But I hope I shall be able to discuss the matter in an article. I shall set myself to write soon, and thus make my protest in a manner which best suits my temperament and capacity. The press reports that in a recent speech referring to the earthquake in Bihar, you spoke as follows: I want you to be superstitious enough to believe that the earthquake is a divine chastisement for the great sin we have committed against those whom we describe as Harijans. I find it difficult to believe. But if this be your real view on the matter, I do not think it should go unchallenged. Herewith you will find a rejoinder from me. If you are correctly reported in the press, would you kindly send it to the press? I have not sent it myself for publication, but I would be the last person to criticize you on unreal acts. Looking forward to meeting you here with deep love.
Kunnur, 2nd February 1934. Gurudev, Shanti Niketan. Your letter has given considered opinion. Stop. Posting Harijan advanced copy. Stop. Since you deem it necessary, it can be published at your end or mine, as you desire. Stop. M.K. Gandhi.
Tagore's protest against the Gandhi's remark of divine chastisement of Bihar did eventually get published in the February issue of 1934. Tagore writes, "It has caused me painful surprise to find Mahatma Gandhi accusing those who blindly follow the social custom of untouchability of having brought down God's vengeance upon certain parts of Bihar, evidently specially selected for his desolating displeasure. It is all the more unfortunate because this kind of unscientific view of things is too readily accepted by a large section of our countrymen."
What is truly tragic about it is the fact that the kind of argument the Mahatma Ji uses by exploiting an event of cosmic disturbance far better suits the psychology of his opponents than his own. And it would not have surprised me at all if they had taken this opportunity of holding him and his followers responsible for the visitation of divine anger. As for us, we feel perfectly secure in the faith that our own sins and errors, however enormous, have not enough force to drag down the structure of creation to ruins. We can depend upon it. Sinners and saints, bigots and breakers of convention, we were immensely grateful to Mahatma Ji for inducing, by his wonder-working inspiration, freedom from fear and feebleness in the minds of his countrymen. Feel profoundly hurt when any word from his mouth may emphasize the elements of unreason in those very minds. Unreason, which is a fundamental source of all the blind powers that drive us against freedom and self-respect.
The bard of Shantiniketan is Gurudev for me as he is for the inmates of that great institution. But Gurudev and I early discovered certain differences, and it cannot suffer by Gurudev's latest utterance on my linking the Bihar calamity with the sin of untouchability. He had a perfect right to utter his protest when he believed that I was in error. My profound regard for him would make me listen to him more readily than to any other critic. But in spite of my having read the statement 3 times, I adhere to what I have written in these columns. When in Naveli, I first linked the event with untouchability, I spoke with greatest deliberation and out of the fullness of my heart. I spoke as I believed. I have long believed that physical phenomena produce results, both physical and spiritual. The converse I hold to be equally true. To me, the earthquake was no caprice of God, nor a meeting of mere blind forces. We do not know all the laws of God, nor their working. Knowledge of the tallest scientist or the greatest spiritualist is like a particle of dust. If God is not my personal being like my Father, He is infinitely more. He rules me in the tiniest detail of my life. I believe, literally, that not a leaf moves, but by His will. Every breath I take depends on His sufferance. I have not the faith which Gurudev has, that our own sins and errors, however enormous, have got enough force to drag down the structure of creation to ruins. On the contrary, I have the faith that our own sins have more force to ruin that structure than any mere physical phenomenon. With me, the connection between cosmic phenomena and human behavior is a living faith that draws me nearer to my God, humbles me, makes me readier to face Him. Such a belief would be a degrading superstition if out of the depth of my ignorance I used it for castigating my opponents.
Bapu Ki Dilli, Pichi Puri Kubu, Santi Amar Oma Koro Prabhu. Dear Mahatma ji, I'm glad Shuren got an opportunity to discuss with you the state of the finances at the ashram. I know how busy you are with your various activities, and though I have often thought of telling you of my difficulties, I have never done so. But Charlie insisted that you must be informed about the situation. And only then did I get permission to discuss it with you. Over 30 years, I have practically given my all to this mission of my life, and so long as I was comparatively young and active, faced all my difficulties unaided. And through my struggles, the institution grew up in its manifold aspects. Now, however, when I am 75, I feel the burden of my responsibility growing too heavy for me, that owing to some deficiency in me, my appeals fail to find adequate response in the heart of my people, though the cause that I have done my utmost to serve is certainly valuable. Constant begging excursions with absurdly meager results, added to the strain of my daily anxieties, have brought my physical constitution nearly to an extreme verge of exhaustion. Now, I know of none else but you, whose words may help my countrymen to realize that it is worth a while to maintain this institution in the fullness of its functions, and to relieve me of perpetual worry at this last period of my waning life and health. With deepest love.
13th October 1935, Bardha. Dear Gurudev, your touching letter was received only on 11th instant, when I was in the midst of meetings. Yes, I have the financial position before me now. You may depend on my straining every nerve to find the required money. I am groping, I am trying to find the way out. It will take some time before I can report the result of my search to you. It is unthinkable that you should have to undertake another begging mission at your age. The necessary funds must come to you without your having to stir out of Shantiniketan. I hope you are keeping well. Padmaja, who was with you a few days ago, was here for the day and was telling me how you have aged. With reverential love, yours, M.K. Gandhi. 27th March 1936, Delhi. Gurudev, God has blessed my poor effort, and here is the money. Now, you will relieve the public mind by announcing cancellation of the rest of the program. May God keep you for many a year to come. Yours with love, M.K. Gandhi.
March 1936, Delhi. Respected Sir, please find the enclosed draft for Rs 60,000 which we believe is the deficit on the expenses on Shanti Niketan, to cover for which you have been exhibiting your art from place to place. When we heard this, we felt humiliated. We believe that at your advanced age and in your weak state of health, you ought not to have to undertake these arduous tours. We must confess that we know very little of the institution except the name, but we have not been unaware of your great fame as the poet of the age. You are not only the greatest poet of India, you are the poet of humanity. Your poems remind one of the hymns of the ancient rishis. You have, by unrivaled gifts, raised the status of our country, and we feel that those whom God has blessed with means should relieve you of the burden of finding the funds required for the conduct of the institution. Our contribution is a humble effort in that direction. For reasons which need not be stated, we prefer to remain anonymous. We hope that you will now cancel all the engagements taken for raising the sum above mentioned. Praying for your long life to continue the service you are rendering to our country, we remain your humble countrymen.
Dear Mahatma, your love for me greatly surpassed my expectations. And I assure you that the gift you have bestowed on me is a gift of profound peace and freedom from daily worries that had been sapping my strength. I have struggled almost single-handed for about 40 years for a cause which had failed to find a helping hand, and a neighborhood jealously antagonistic, and therefore, when I am nearing the end of my journey, suddenly to be blessed with an unquestioning sympathy, lavish in generosity, overwhelms my famished heart with joy. I have no other words to say. God bless you. With love, yours affectionately, Rabindra.
Dear Gurudev, your messenger has brought your precious note with receipts. I have done nothing. It is God's prompting. Your labors and prayers have borne fruit. May you have complete rest from worry and toil over the financial difficulties. I am well, thanks. Love, M.K. Gandhi.
My dear Mahatma, I have taken the liberty of nominating you as a life trustee of our Vishwabharati. In these last frail years of my love, it will give me great consolation to know that the institution to which I have given the best part and energy of my life will have you as one of its guardians. You will see from the bulletin of statutes and regulations being sent under a separate cover that no strain of actual work will be put upon you, save what is entailed in occasional advice and decision in regard to matters that touch the financial security of the institution. I feel justified in sharing my responsibilities with you, for I know that no difference in our spheres of activity can loosen the bond of mutual love and common aspiration. I hope you will allow me this privilege. Yours affectionately, Rabindra.
19th February 1937, Segaon, Wardha. Dear Gurudev, I got your letter 5 days ago. Your trust in me and affection for me are there to be seen in every line, but what about my amazing limitations? My shoulders are too weak to bear the burden you wish to impose upon me. My regard to you pulls me in one direction, my reason in the opposite, and it would be a folly on my part to surrender reason to emotion in a question like the one that faces me. I know that if I undertake the trust, I would not be required to go into details of administration, but it does imply capacity for financing the institution. And what I have heard 2 days ago has deepened my reluctance, for I understand that in spite of your promise to me in Delhi, you are about to go to Ahmedabad on a begging expedition. I was grieved, and I would ask you on bended knees to forego the expedition if it is really decided upon. And in any case, I would beg of you to recall my appointment as one of the trustees. With love and reverence, M.K. Gandhi.
Dear Mahatma ji, you have grievously misjudged me on mere suspicion. It is so unlike your great and gracious ways that it has startled me to a painful amazement. I feel ashamed to have to assert that it was never my intention to exploit you financially or your name when I asked you to accept the trusteeship of Vishwal. However, if it has been a mistake on my part, be the reason what it may, I readily withdraw my request and ask to be forgiven. In your letter, you have strangely accused me of contemplating to break my promise and go to Ahmedabad for the purpose of raising funds. You were not certain of your facts and had no justification for hinting such a charge against me. Allow me to be frank in return and to tell you that possibly your temperament prevents you from understanding the dignity of the mission, which I'm glad to call my own. A mission that is not merely concerned with the economic problem of India or her sectarian religions, but which comprehends the culture of the human mind in its broadest sense. And when I feel the urge to send abroad some poetical creation of mine, which according to me carries within it a permanent standard of beauty, I expect not alms or favor, but grateful homage to my art from those who have the sensitiveness of soul to respond to it. And if I have to receive contribution in the shape of admission fees, I claim it as very much less than what is due to me in return for the rare benefit conferred upon them. Therefore, I must refuse to accept the term begging expedition as an accurate or worthy expression. It is a part of a poet's religion to entertain in his life a solemn faith in his own function, to realize that he is specially called to collaborate with his Creator in adding to the joy of existence. Let me confess that I should like nothing better than proudly to sit by the side of the artist trained by me when they try to give perfect expression to my dreams of beauty in their rhythmic movements and voice, and so be able to tell them that they have done well.
Dear Gurudev, your letter has caused me much distress. A letter which was written out of love and reverence should have been so misunderstood. It is truly a revelation. There was no question of suspicion, and therefore no question of misjudging you. I simply put before you My meaning of trusteeship, I have been trustee before now of several institutions, and I have warned myself to see that they were properly financed. Acceptance of the burden by me of Vishwabharati could mean nothing to me unless it at least meant that I would be able to discharge the financial burden. As to the breach of promise, I thought myself to be so near you that I could dare playfully accuse you of contemplated breach of promise. My motive was absolutely plain. I wanted, somehow or another, to wean you from another begging expedition, a phrase which you and I often used to use in Delhi. Of course, I know your religion, and all India is proud of it. Let us have as much of it as you can give, but never with the burden hanging over your head of collecting money for Vishwabharati against the expression of yourself before the public. I hope this letter will undo the grief that has been caused to you by my previous letter. With love and reverence, yours, M.K. Gandhi.
19th September 1937, Shantiniketan. Dear Mahatma Ji, the first thing which welcomed me into the world of life after the period of stupor I passed through is your message of affectionate anxiety. It was fully worth the cost of sufferings which were unremitting in their long persistence. With grateful love.
Dear Gurudev, your precious letter is before me. You have anticipated me. I wanted to write as soon as Sir Neil Ratan sent me his last reassuring wire. But my right hand needs rest. I did not want to dictate. The left hand works slow. This is merely to show you what love some of us bear towards you. I verily believe that the silent prayers from the hearts of your admirers have been heard, and you are still with us. You are not a mere singer of the world. Your living word is a guide and an inspiration to thousands. May you be spared for many a long year yet to come. With deep love, yours sincerely, M.K. Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi Vardhana. We are grateful for the great gift of your life, Rabindra.
The inappropriate ejection of Subhash Chandra Bose from Congress presidency deeply disturbed Tagore. He wrote a letter to Gandhi seeking solace. To Mahatma Gandhi, Birla House, New Delhi.
Dear Mahatma Ji, at the last Congress, some rude hands have deeply hurt Bengal with an ungracious persistence. Please apply without delay balm to the wound with your kind hands and prevent it from festering. Just learn from the papers your visit to Bengal. Hope you will spend a few days at Shantiniketan.
To Gurudev Shantiniketan, arranging reach Shantiniketan 15th or 16th, staying there at least 2 days. Love.
তবে পরাণ ফুলে তুই মুখ ফুটে তোর মনের কথা থাকলা বলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে থাকলা চলো রে যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ওরা ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাথার চরণ চলে থাকলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে হাতলা চলো রে যদি আলো না থাকে
A letter was handed by Tagore to Gandhi at the time of his departure from Shantiniketan.
Mahatma ji, you had a bird's eye vision this morning of our Vishwabharati Center of Activities. I do not know what estimate you have formed of its merit. You know that though this institution is national in its immediate aspect, it is international in its spirit, offering according to the best of its means India's hospitality of culture to the rest of the world. At one of its critical moments, you have saved it from an utter breakdown and helped it to its legs. We're ever thankful to you for this act of friendliness. And now, before you take your leave from Shantiniketan, I make my fervent appeal to you. Accept this institution under your protection, giving it an assurance of permanence. If you consider it to be a national asset, Vishwabharati is like a vessel which is carrying the cargo of my life's work and best pleasures. And I hope it may claim special care from my countrymen for its preservation.
Dear Gurudev, the touching note that you put into my hands as we parted has gone straight into my heart. Of course, Vishwabharati is a national institution. It is undoubtedly also international. You may depend upon my doing all I can in the common endeavor to assure its permanence. I look to you to keep your promise to sleep religiously for about an hour daily during the day. Though I have always regarded Shantiniketan as my second home, this visit has brought me nearer to it than ever before. With reverence and love, yours M.K. Gandhi. 1st October 1940, Delhi. Dear Gurudev, you must stay yet a while. Humanity needs you. I was pleased beyond measure to find that you were better. With love, yours M.K. Gandhi. 17th July 1941. To Gurudev, Shantiniketan. Press reports disturbing via exact condition Gandhi. 1st August 1941, Vardhagat. Thank God. Hope speedy, complete recovery, Gandhi.
Number 6, Dwarkanath, Tagore Lane, Calcutta. To Mahatma Gandhi Varga, your constant good wishes have brought me back from the land of darkness into the land of light and life. And my first offering of thanks goes out to you, Rabindra.
Happy birthday, Gurudev.
4 not enough. May you finish 5. Love, Gandhi.
Thanks, message. But Oscar, impertinent. 5 score. Intolerable.
দেখো ও তবু মনে দেখো যদি দূরে যাই চলে তবু মনে দেখো
যদি পুরাতন প্রেম ঢাকা পড়ে যায় নব প্রেম জালে মনে রেখো ও তবু মনে রেখো।
In the death of Rabindra Tagore, we have not only lost the greatest poet of the age, but an ardent nationalist who was also a humanitarian. There was hardly any public activity on which he has not left the impress of his powerful personality. In Shantiniketan and Sriniketan, he has left a legacy to the whole nation, indeed to the whole world. May the noble soul rest in peace, and may those in charge at Shantiniketan prove worthy of the responsibility resting on their shoulders.